أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. In fact, this topic is very important topic for me actually. Something before Dr. Marsad is going to speak about that. I came to America. I came to America 1988. I became in America. Then I was in the army. When I came to America, I was in the army to get my master's degree and PhD in geology at that time. And then also I became an imam. I was against to have voting, become an American citizen. I told the people when I was an imam, listen carefully. I mean, like 35 years ago, when I met Dr. Marsad actually before he got the PhD and his wife before, and then I was against for voting, against anything for the government. And honestly, I was completely wrong. Some people, Muslims actually, shuyukh and people, say, no, haram to vote. Haram to vote. But the key, please give me attention, especially if you are new Muslims here also, halal and haram, anything related to the deen. Related, قال Allah and قال Rasulullah. Allah says so and so, and Muhammad says so, that's halal and haram. But the American law is not Muslim country anyway. And also, I found out, especially I got arrested actually because after September 11, they accused me many things when I was sick. Actually, I was sick for a long time. They accused me. I was wrong. Why? In fact, one vote is make difference in the election. And plus, my vote, I can make a change also. The Muslim also can change. A lot of things change right now, gays and Yisban and all kinds of names. And if we're not fighting that by the law, it's not related to our deen. Deen, halal, haram, we understand that. We know what the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Sahaba and the Salaf. Okay? But the voting is not related to the deen at all. Some shuyukh against that, because I was one of them, but I was wrong. Then I met Brother Marsad, actually, his daughter got married in his house, and then we spoke about the election and this and that, and I invited, I said, can you come to our community here, speak about this topic, because me, myself, as Ibrahim, I want to learn. I want to know my right. And actually the topic here, this is your country as a Muslim. This is my country. I'm an American citizen. This is my country, my land. Of course, all of us, even our president refugees, the true American, they call it red Indian, but actually the true American, in fact. So everybody in this country, white and black and this and that, they are refugees. But in the same time, it's our country, we have to defend our country with the law. And alhamdulillah, Dr. Marsad spoke about it many times actually, but this time I encourage him, please come and speak to our country. Jazakallah khair, Dr. Marsad. Dr. Marsad, by the way, Dr. Marsad is from Bosnia. He came after the war in Bosnia because a lot of massacres in Bosnia. He spoke about it last time, also more and more. And I wish actually many books, actually, you have the books also with you?
I have a few.
That's very important. We have a sign actually. If you want to buy the books also, it's very important to buy the books for Dr. Marsad. And Sunnahfollowers, by the way, all over the world, not only in Malta Beach, all over the world, inshallah. So sisters and brothers, if you need anything about the book, actually, Dr. Marsad here, you can publish this book, we can send it to you, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Well, thank you, all of you, for essentially choosing to spend some time for this conversation. I imagine this to be a conversation where maybe you can essentially engage and ask questions that you are essentially thinking about, and they're pertaining to something that you're interested in. My name is Mirsad Kirshturetz, and I do have a PhD in political science. And within political science, my area of study, comparative politics. So that means I study different systems in different regions and countries around the world, and try to understand how they're saying different or whatever. So it is true. That's what I do for a living. I actually do teach that, and I write books. I wrote one that I would love everybody to download. You can actually read it for free. So, I'm not making any advertisement, but the book is called First Nationalism, Then Identity. It deals with nationalism and identity. And I think for Muslims, it's very important to understand this topic more deeply so that we know what, when we talk about nationalism, what are we talking about? That's very useful. And so, being that I do this for a living, the only community I don't talk to about politics is Muslim community. And that's partly because of what Sheikh said. It's a kind of controversial topic. And I feel bad about it because what I learned from Islam, that we all have to pay zakah on the wealth and knowledge that we have. So if this is something I know, I should probably also talk to the Muslim community and try to somehow clarify things and help Muslims better understand politics so that they can, take a stand vis-a-vis politics, maybe, choose their own orientations regarding the politics based on some sort of real information or based on some sort of real knowledge rather than assumptions, hearsay, or things like that. And so that's why I agree to come and speak about this. And this is essentially almost the first time, the second time, actually. One time I spoke to the Sheikh Uthman Khan, from whom I'm lately learning a lot. He's also, like my Sheikh Ibrahim, encouraging me to actually go into this and talk about it. He also even invites me to write something about it, which is sometimes, for me, I'm a little bit apprehensive, but inshallah, we'll see. He's a very kind teacher, so he may essentially help me start doing that. And so that means what? I have to tell you also in the beginning two things. I am a student, when it comes to Islam, I'm a student primarily of three, maybe four people, but three people that you may know, I may mention. First is Sheikh Ibrahim. From him, I actually learned about Islam, and I learned how to live as Muslims. It's important, right? Also, I'm a student of Sheikh Walid Bassiouni. Dr. Walid Bassiouni is also a very important person for me, for my kind of understanding of Islam. I like to praise him always because he is a true, amazing source of knowledge. And lately, that Sheikh Uthman Khan from Canada, who also kind of now lets me and dive a little bit deeper into some areas which I have not done before. So that's where I come from Islamically. When it comes to, I introduce myself when it comes to academics, right? So I'm a political scientist and what I'm studying. And so, we in a preparation, we were thinking of what is the good title. And in the end, we decided, based on Nora's suggestion, that the title should be, This is Your Country. And essentially, we can talk about, Muslims in America or American Muslims, and a topic of political participation, which is not only voting, but more basically engagement or involvement in politics in the United States. And it is a controversial topic. As Sheikh said, a lot of people speak about it, but I am sometimes wondering whether they fully understand what they're talking about, and they may be just giving simple explanations to sometimes complex questions. Now, to begin with, we can say, that this is important. Why? Because it deals with life. And so if we are to live here, and we are obviously living here in the United States, and those of you who are watching over there, those platforms, you live wherever you live, right? then we are essentially participating in some sort of collective life of society. So it is important for us to understand, how should we approach that, both as Muslims and as individuals. As the Sheikh said, there are some clear rules which pertains to specific issues regarding religion, but there are also some aspects of life which are basically open for us to try to contribute and become useful and to better the societies wherever we live. And so that's why it's important to understand how that goes. Now, so that's what we're going to talk about. But also I felt in the beginning, I should also say what we are not going to talk about. So it's very important so that we clear that. First of all, I will not be talking about who to vote for. That's not what I want to do. I don't want to talk about what party to support or what political party not to support. Again, that's not what I want to talk about. I don't want to talk about, what type of government should we have or not have. That's also not something I will talk about. We already have one, and this is what we have. And I will not talk about specific policy in terms of good policy, bad policy, right? That's not what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about how it is for us, American Muslims or Muslims in America, however you want to say it, although there are some subtle differences between those two terms. So things that pertains to us. So I will rather talk about how to vote for yourself. That's what I like to talk about, how to vote for yourself. Not who to vote for, but to vote for yourself. How to support yourself politically, and at least how not to harm yourself politically, and how not to harm those that you love and care about. And perhaps along the way, how to influence government to do good, because Muslims' objective is to do good, right? So how can we do that and essentially impact the society in which we live, and so that way we do not feel bad about it. So first of all, when it comes to politics, let's establish certain things, right? We are, as Muslims, we are people who believe in order. We believe in order, in structure, right? It is, in fact, I was talking to my brother just before the lecture, and we said that's sometimes difficult for those who are new Muslims to essentially adopt to all this structure and order that Islam gives. But we do believe in order. And when it comes to the order, that means usually when the systems are larger, that means a government. Even in the masjid, which is basically a basic unit, Jama'ah, right? There is an order, there is a structure, there is somebody who's in charge, and somebody who essentially is, who is having a different roles in that structure, right? And so what is a government? We can say, especially in America, government is essentially the institutions which makes public policy decisions for society. So those institutions that make decisions that affect all of us is what we refer to as government. When we talk about society, it is also inevitable that we mention state, right? And so the purpose of government is to govern a state composed of the people and other resources, composed of the people and other resources. And so the states are therefore those structures that the government comes to somehow direct one way or the other. States are organizations that essentially maintain society. Oftentimes, states have different tools, but unlike any other structure, states have a tool of violence, where they can often utilize violence to essentially maintain the society. And nowadays, states have that so-called exclusive coercive right. So they are the only one who have a right to use violence to achieve some sort of state objectives. Now, we mentioned government, we mentioned state. So it is inevitable to ask ourselves, what's the Muslim position when it comes to state? Can we separate Muslims from state? I don't want to say Islam from state, but That will be even bigger question. Can we separate? And there are lots of, scholarly differences or differences when it comes to jurisprudence. In a summary, I will say it's impossible. It is impossible to separate Muslims and state, right? From the very inception of Islam, as you all have learned, even when it comes to measuring time, we have Hijri year. Essentially, Hijri year suggests a date in time when we essentially started with building up a state as an organized society where Muslims can live in accordance to their way of life. So Muslim and state cannot be separated, absolutely. And now that state that Muslims have built, original state, is a model for us in perpetuity. We always look back into that all those, Muslims, Prophet Muhammad and Sahaba have established. And so what did they do? And this is where I will borrow from Sheikh Walid Basuni, who spoke about that transformation from Yathrib to Taiba. He calls it Yathrib to Taiba. And he noted in his presentation, which I invite you to see, he noted how, even the term suggests something. What means Yathrib? It means something not nice, a place of vices, a place of not good things. And when Prophet Muhammad came into that city, he changed the name of that city into Taiba, which is essentially a place of goodness, place where good will be added. So he basically said to people that he came to, look, I came to your city and we're going to build a good place. We're not going to harm you. We're not going to cause any problems, or we're not going to kind of spread mischief, or we're not going to introduce new vices. No, we came to do good. And so the term Taiba essentially talks about, essentially place of good. So that means that's our orientation. Our orientation is to do good and to serve the humanity so that humanity can achieve its potentials in various ways. One of the ways to reach Jannah, but also in this life to do good things to others. Now, also name of Medina, also the name that city had transformed to is the name, the city of Medina, which Sheikh Walid explained very well, that means city of, with a nice meaning, but city of rules, city where people are welcome, but there will be rules. There will be essentially organized society where everybody will be judged according to those rules which are universal and applicable to everyone, without any reference and relevance to your social status or anything. But essentially, rules are there to improve, to make the society good. And so essentially, both of these suggest to us that we are people who are looking for this organized society that is to do good. And so the place where we come to live, whether this is America, Uzbekistan, or any other place, is the place where we contribute to make it better. And so that's very important to establish at the beginning, that our intention and our goal always, everywhere we are, is to improve on the life that people have. So we want to make it better, even in Jamaica, right? We want to make it better, right? We want to help people to improve. Now, the question could be, and that's a controversial question, and I'm risking now, all kinds of, all kinds of tensions, right? I always say to my students, you don't know what means cancel until you meet Muslims. The Muslims are most famous for canceling, right? You say a wrong word, boom, everybody cancels you. So I have to watch my words and very carefully state what I want to say so that I don't get canceled, even though it's perfectly fine if you cancel me. It's okay. The idea is, how should we govern, right? And this is where the controversy comes. A lot of people would like to imagine that ideal case where we have a Islamic government, and then we have Islamic laws, and we are all about doing this type of good stuff. But that's essentially ideal. We don't have it, especially not in this country, right? So we have a system which already exists, and we came to live in this system, and we are here. We're not going anywhere. I hope all of you are realizing that. If you didn't realize it until now, we are here to stay, essentially. We're not going anywhere. So now the goal, therefore, is to make this system better, improve it to the point that we can, as people, as members of this system. How do we essentially improve the system? Now, why is that controversial? Because again, I said that people will say, oh, well, we should not be participating in this system because we are legitimizing it. We should not be participating in this system because this is not our system. But that's kind of, again, an ideal argument. This system exists, we live in this system, and we are not choosing between this system and Islamic system, right? If there is Islamic system and then we're choosing this one over that one, then perhaps maybe there will be a discussion. But this is not a matter of choice. This system already exists. Therefore, we're only choosing, should we willingly participate or should we participate by not participate? That's because there's no option not to really to cause no effect. You participate even by essentially choosing not to participate. And so what I understand as a Muslim is that we are not people who sitting back. We are people who always raise up to the challenge, and we do things that we can to improve the life wherever we are. And so once it comes to that, we are touching upon the essence of politics. Essence of politics, right? We want to essentially participate, because politics is about that. We're going to define it shortly. We want to participate in a society where we live and try to improve it to the point we can. Now, there is also an implicit question about, like, how should government, govern in a diverse society like in the United States, right? We can ask the people who, various scholars and stuff, do we have an answer to that? How should we govern in a society as diverse as United States? I have to tell you that I don't think we have a clear-cut answer to this question, right? So we are yet to develop clear position on that question. Why? Because in part, very early in Islam, we basically stopped developing these type of questions. And so we are now finding ourselves in a situation we have to figure out how to do it, how to improve it. And so that means, again, that opens up the space for us to actually, try to do the best we can with that good intention that we may have. And so now, okay, we said when it comes to all these things that we mentioned, organized society, countries, governments, right? We want to be involved in how these organized societies function, what resolutions they come up with, what laws they come up with, because the laws essentially regulate life. The laws essentially direct us to do this or that or the other thing, right? This is where politics becomes part of the conversation, right? So it's good, maybe useful for us to define what is politics essentially. The best definition that I have heard, and I very much agree with, is politics is essentially a process which decides who gets what, when, and how. Who gets what, when, and how. And so how can anybody say, well, I don't want to be involved in politics? I mean, you're involved in politics from the inception. If you have a brother or sister, what is the constant discussion about? Who gets what, when, and how? If you're married, what is the constant discussion? Who gets what, when, and how, right? If you're working in a company, what's the constant discussion? Who gets what, when, and how, right? Everywhere you go, you're facing this question. So that means you are involved in politics all the time. Now, for us in this setting, we are now talking about should we be involved in politics on that higher level, on the level of society in which we live? Of course we should. Should we be involved on the state level, on the local level, on the national level? Yes. Why? Because we are contributing to this society. Muslims are overwhelmingly most contributing members of this society. We are much less likely to be involved in all those things that are anti-systemic. We are much less likely to be involved in crime, in drugs, in alcoholism, in all other type of vices, and we are much more likely to work. Why? Because Prophet encourages us to work. I have learned from our Sheikh, and we can mention just one hadith, but there are many. Our Prophet encouraged person who came to beg. He says, let me teach you, and he taught him how he can go to the desert and collect goods and bring and sell it in Medina rather than essentially ask rather than beg. And there are other stories. So in other words, even religiously, we encourage to contribute. So we are contributing to this society. I mean, I hope all of you know that, whether you want, you don't, you're getting certain amount of your paycheck deducted, and taxes are being basically, directed for the so-called common collective good when the government uses to do these different things. They use it to build highways, to build hospitals, to build schools, to build whatever else is for public use. So now, should we not be part of it? I mean, I can make these things even more banal, right? What if, I was talking to Sheikh today, what if they want to build a garbage disposal factory right next to the masjid? You have a masjid in a school, and they want to build a garbage disposal factory next to the masjid. How would you respond to that? Would you like that? We were just talking how the nice smell is for Muslims considered to be a charity. Now imagine a garbage disposal factory, right next to the masjid. You come, and that will probably not be pleasant. And who decides where this place will be? Where they're going to do that, garbage? Disposal and recycling. Where are they going to do it? It's essentially a political question. And I'm telling you this is not even a made-up story. We have a school down there, an Islamic school in Sunrise, Florida, and they actually wanted to build a garbage disposal place right next to it. So we had to go to the city council meeting and basically try to appeal and tell them, hey, don't do that. Why? Because we live here, we pay taxes, this is our school. We don't want to have that type of, business right next to the school. We understand we have to have it, but do you think it's appropriate to have it next to the school? So finally, they were able to convince those council members, and they didn't build it. But how would that be called? How would that process of going to the council meeting and arguing and asking, or rather demanding, however you want to call it, how would that be called? It is politics, right? So as my daughter says, your water bill is a matter of politics. What are you being charged in your water bill is very much decided by those political structures, right? And so now all of those people who say we should not be involved in that, I mean, that's essentially a utopian dream, like you are involved in it already. So now it's only a matter of should you be consciously doing it, or should you just sit back and let others do on your behalf, and then you can pretend that you're not involved. Now, so that's what politics is. So now, what is a political participation? Political participation is every or all ways through which we influence these decisions. And so I know that most people, when we talk about it, most people think of voting. They think, okay, should we vote or should we not vote? Voting is the last kind of down the list of things that you can do to affect the policy making. Voting perhaps is the last one in that line. You can affect policy making in many different ways. You can affect policy making by attending these meetings we were just talking. You can affect policy making by donating money. You can affect policy making by talking about issues that we care about. So let's say we care about issue. I was asking Sheikh today about climate change and all these things, the disruption of weather, which will cause a big facade on this planet. And Sheikh said, of course, absolutely, this climate change is essentially caused by human activity, which essentially kind of made things much worse. So we are affecting it. Should we talk about it or not? If we talk about it, then people understand that this is something we care about, and they may consult us regarding the issue, whether we care or not. So political participation is more than voting. However, voting is important. Why? Because this country has a system which is based on voting. The whole concept of governance here is built upon the idea of consent of the governed. And that consent of the governed, in a way, is essentially in part shown through your political participation, which is most obvious when it comes to voting, right? Now, we don't have an option. The system, like any other system, is built to protect itself and to maintain itself. The system is not built to change itself. The system is built to maintain itself and to protect itself. So, meaning, we are here and we came here for a reason, right? Because we thought that this is a good place for us to live, to raise our families. And so that means, we tentatively agree that this system is something that we will essentially, join and try to improve on this system as much as we can. So voting is important for that reason. But also, since this is the system that is built upon that idea, we have to understand how those who make those public policy decisions, who are directly involved in politics, becoming so-called politicians, and I wish there's more Muslims who are doing that, right? I wish. That doesn't mean it's not a fatwa. I'm just saying I wish there are more Muslims that are doing that, right? Those people who actually do make policy making, who do make these decisions that affect us, they primarily pay attention to who? To people who vote, right? If your job or your election or your place in the government depends on votes, what would you be caring about? Voters. And if Muslims are not only, there are some who claim that we should not be voting. I was saying, okay, so not only that they have an erroneous opinion about it, but they actually go and publicly talk about the fact that Muslims should not be voting and Muslims don't vote and stuff. So this is a disaster. So not only that you are not, affecting the system in a, constructive way, but you're also causing harm to yourself, because you understand why politicians speak so badly about immigrants? You know why? Because they don't vote. And the politicians know up front that they don't vote. So there is no political cost to talk bad about them. When they speak bad, the Sheikh mentioned about Muslims are this, Muslims are that. You know why they speak about Muslims like that? Because we advertise that we don't vote. Not only that we don't vote, but we advertise that we don't. So what do you think politicians will then say? Oh, well, let's be concerned how we speak about these people, because they may essentially go and vote against us. But they know that we don't vote. So how is that good for us? So the point is, what I would argue is that, political participation is more than just voting. In fact, we can be donating money that sometimes plays a bigger role than voting. Donating money so that we show with our purses in America, we say, put your money where your mouth is, that we show what do we care about, what do we support, and what do we not support. So essentially, that will be also a way to political participation. But when it comes to voting, absolutely it's essential for us to vote. Why? Not because this person or that party or this party will win, but by us voting, you have to understand the politicians actually know whether you vote or you don't. They don't know who do you vote for, but they know whether you vote or you don't. Because, when you go to vote, you have to show your, voting ID and stuff. So you're being essentially check marked, okay, this person voted. So they know that you vote or you don't. They don't know who you don't vote for, because that's essentially somewhat secret. But even that, we know, political scientists know, people don't really vote for. If you're registered with this party or that party, we know that you don't vote against your party. You either vote for your party or you don't. So that means if you go to vote, I already know who you voted for. So that means if you don't vote, then I know you're not participating. And then if I know you're not participating, why would I care about it? So the point is, it is very important for us to vote. That way, those who make public policy decisions on our behalf will maybe consult us in the future about policies that they want to make. They will ask us, what do we think about it? And then we can have constructive input on what and how should be done. Now, finally, our approach to politics is very sometimes, as we said, problematic over us. It's not problematic over anybody else, it's problematic over us. Why? Because if we don't want to participate in that process which decides who gets what, when, and how, well, lots of people are happy. Why? Because the system imagines there is only so much wealth, and the less people sitting around the table, the more wealth for them. So, of course, they would love if we don't participate, because they will say, okay, so there's more for us, right? But we have to understand, if Islam is a way of life, as we were being taught by the Shuyukh, then that process of who gets what, when, and how is certainly part of life, and we should be involved. And so now, we are living in a society which is to produce some sort of amount of so-called public goods, right? Let's say what the government in this country does. Think about it. It's mostly good things. They give us social security, they give us insurance, they help schools, they help hospitals, they provide some sort of order, right? So what they use money for is mostly for good things, right? I don't think many of you will not disagree that what the government does is essentially good. In fact, when we complain about the government is not doing enough of the good things. We would like them to do something rather than this or that or the other things. So how they do that is essentially by taking from these public goods which are collectively produced. And so the question is then, are we contributing to these public goods as Muslims? Indeed, we do. You guys know public good is also children. They're very human beings. They're workers. They're productive members of society. They're public good. So we tend to have a lot of children, right? How many do you have? Musa, yeah. Yeah. So that's a public good. These people, these children will one day become, people who are contributing in various ways, people who pay taxes and stuff. And so if we are participating, then we should also participate in making these decisions on who gets what, when, and how these public goods will be spent. And that's essentially the essence of what politics is. Now, do we expect anything from the government? Do we expect anything from the political system in which we live? Do we expect anything or we don't?
Yes.
Okay, and how is that essentially supposed to happen? That things that, Very good, yeah. So we need to essentially, somehow, we need to articulate that, and we need to essentially let those people who make public policy decisions we need to let them know what do we want. And again, this is not something that I will say. We all know the story of Muslims, early Muslims going to Abyssinia, right? And then they were basically summoned to the leader, correct? And then the leader asked them, in essence, he asked them, what do you want, or who you are, introduce yourself. And then they articulated what they want, who they are, and what they want. So same thing, like we need to essentially, if we expect anything, then we need to be able to articulate that. So then the question becomes also important, who is going to articulate that? So who do you think should articulate what do we want?
Our leaders.
Which is I love these ambiguous terms, our leaders. And who are our leaders? That's a very political question, right? Who is our leadership, right? Yeah, it's a political question, right? So now the question is, should we be involved in politics? And I mean, constantly we are involved, right? So who should articulate what do we want? Well, it depends, right? Certainly, we hope that somebody who actually knows what we want, somebody who knows what we want, right? So that person or those people could be those who can articulate that thing, what we want. And as you see, that's why I said I wish more Muslims are involved in politics so they can essentially be what we call linkages between us and policy-making process, right? So that we can articulate what we want and that system can respond to what do we want. Because right now, the big part of the problem in the United States, Sheikh told me that you had a recently discussion of Islamophobia, which is real, no doubt about it. I mean, I don't like the term. It's really more like of anti-Muslim ideology or anti-Muslimness, I would call it, rather than Islamophobia. It's real, no doubt about it. And we all feel affected of it. It's a form of racism, absolutely no question whatsoever, right? It is about essentially limiting our access to those public goods. But the part of the problem is also in us, because we don't articulate what we want. And the system is sometimes confused. They see us as a contributing members. But when it comes to us articulating what we want, we are sometimes confused about it. So we have to be much more clear in terms of that. And I always recommend nowadays, especially now we're going into very important elections in the United States next year, that you should invite local politicians to the masjid and have them introduce themselves to the community. Tell them who they are. By law, because you are so-called non-profit organization, you cannot endorse anyone. You cannot say, okay, vote for this or vote for that. But you can certainly introduce them to the community. You can certainly have them meet the community and say what is their position on whatever they are about to do. That's not bad. Why? Because understand, with that type of engagement, you're not only benefiting yourself, you're not only kind of benefiting the Muslim community in general, but you're also benefiting your children. Those children, Musa, that you're going to have, those 10 children, inshallah, that you're planning to have. Why? Because we spoke about that before, I think, and I'm going to mention it again. Listen, people, understand. Identity oftentimes is very wrongly perceived. Remember, my book is about identity, right? Identity is a physical category or physical role that people take. And that identity has to have a physical space to exist. Without that physical space, identity cannot be exercised. So that means you can believe that I saw a sign in a big truck that has a big bumper sign on the back of that tractor trailer say, I am a Prius C, like hybrid car, right? Like you can imagine that who you are, whoever you want to be, right? But if you don't have a space to exercise that identity, it's a problem. So how do you create a space? Now, am I saying something unusual? What happened? What did Ibrahim alayhi salam, what did he do when he became a prophet? He changed the place where he lived. He went into a place where he could exercise his identity. What did Prophet Muhammad do? He went from Mecca to Medina. Why? Because he needed a physical space to exercise his identity. And prophet after prophet, after they accepted the revelation, after they got the guidance, they want and they looked for a space to exercise their identity. So alhamdulillah, we came here, our identity can be exercised, but this country is built upon very simple principle, which is individual pursuit of happiness. No one will give it to you. I mean, I don't know who people are watching this, or I don't know how it's, but in this country, no one gives you anything. I have at least 2-3 Americans here too, right? Who gives you stuff? Nobody. It's individual pursuit of happiness, buddy. You go get it. And if you don't want to get it, who I am to tell you? So if Muslims are imagining that somebody will give it to you, well, there's nobody. I have to kind of, reality check. You're supposed to get it for yourself. And that's normal. In this country, this is normal. This is expected. So basically inviting these people, interacting with them, visiting them, you can go to their office, schedule a meeting and say, okay, we are the Muslim community in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. We would like to meet with you. You guys know he has to meet with you because that's his job. And he will be happy to meet with you. He will essentially, probably he or she, they will say, finally, guys, I come to meet you. So tell me what the heck you want, right? We're constantly just complaining. Muslims become our biggest complainers in the world. We just complain, like blah, 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 complaining. He may be telling, okay, so what do you actually want? And obviously, you have to want things that are possible, right? You can want, as the Omar radiallahu anhu said, if you plant a corn and you hope for, an apple to grow, that something is wrong with you. So you have to wish something that is essentially possible. And so that way, you're building that space. The prophets and the people previously, right, they had to migrate to a space where they can exercise that identity. Unlike many of you, but I do know these people. I heard most of them come from Uzbekistan. They have a much more freedom to practice Islam here than is in Uzbekistan, correct? Is it? It is, right?
Middle East too.
Of course, Middle East too. I mean, this is unfortunately true. We wish it's not, but it is true, right? And so that means, okay, so there is a kind of place for us to exercise our identity. Now it is about making it a little more, in line to what we want. But that needs to be articulated by us. And then through that political participation, we can make things better. And doing that will help then our children be able to exercise, or rather, exercise that Muslim identity that we want. Unfortunately, there's no other way. There's nobody else who will do that for you, me, or anybody. You and I are the only people who can do that. And essentially, that's also that process of who gets what, when, and how. Who gets a space to exercise his identity and who doesn't? Like, who gets a space to wear hijab in public and who doesn't? You guys hear about friends, right? Woman cannot go and swim in the ocean in that what we call it burkini. Who decides that? The government decides. So you look, we are talking about who has a right to exercise his identity in public, right? What is that being decided through politics? And so there are some people who are concerned, who say the way the Muslims in this country behave, they say we can perceive that maybe 10, 20 years from now, we're going to be like France, where people like me will be asked to shave the beard, and the woman will be asked not to appear in public in a certain way. Why? Because we refuse to participate. So I absolutely encourage you to essentially understand where you live, understand the system in which you are, basic principles, and basic principle is, individual pursuit of happiness. In other words, you are to essentially chase and do what you want to make yourself happy or to organize system the better, to be the way you want. And the second is that could be done through political participation. And political participation, as we said, are all those activities that affect essentially policymakers in choosing what to do and what not to do. Sometimes what not to do is better or more important than what to do. And so that's essentially how I will approach this. And at this point, maybe we can open the floor for some questions or comments or something else. If there are any questions, I guess even for the people who are watching on Facebook, you can guys ask the questions.
Sunnahfollowers, if you have any question regarding this also, you can speak, inshallah. Here also, we are honest. Yeah.
Yes.
If we vote for someone, I was asking if we vote for a particular person and that this person he's not Muslim, but he listens to Muslims and he made a decision, but it's considered to us, it's haram thing because we voted for him. Would that gain us any bad deeds?
No. That's my understanding. But Sheikh, it's more kind of Islamic question. But my understanding, no. We are being judged based on our intention, right?
Yes.
So my intention.
إنما الأعمال with the action, with the niyyah, with the intention, that Allah will judge us about our intention. Our intention.
So, like in the particular case, we are not supporting him because of the policy, that policy that you mentioned that we don't agree. We're supporting him because of the policy we agree with. And that's why we prefer this one over that one, right? And so, alhamdulillah, we believe in religion where no one takes our sins from us and no one can take our good deeds from us. So, again, I understand the idea, but I understand the real. And the real is, this is the system, these are policymakers, they're being elected by the population in a process which is not so perfect, but it is kind of working, right? And they are making decisions based on essentially these interactions with the community. And I know what you're hinting, and I understand what your questions are, but you understand this community is very active in pursuing and pushing for their goals, their rights, their agendas and stuff, versus what happens to you. And look, I will tell you something that is kind of maybe a little bit iffy, but again, I can be canceled. I really envy Christian community in this country because they're very active when it comes to this type of stuff, politics especially, right? They're very vocal to express what I agree with and what I disagree with. And they're very active to say we support this and we don't support that. And how do you think politicians here would know what do you like and what you don't like? He's supposed to imagine. You don't want to talk to him. You don't want to interact. You don't go vote. You don't participate to it. So how does he make it? While he has different communities which advocate for whatever they want to advocate for, and she responds to what he or she hears it. And so in that sense, I very much commend these Christian communities in this country, which are very active. Let me not mention Jewish communities, right, who are even more active when it comes to pursuing what they like, right?
You have Jewish communities, by the way, in Senegal. Everyone in Senegal, they vote.
Exactly. Well,
if the rabbi said vote, they vote. No question.
Because they understood very harshly how hard it is to live as an isolated. You know, Jews have lived like that in Europe before the Holocaust. Or not all of them, but many of them. And then, you know, they had to experience what they experienced in part because they were isolating themselves. They were not participating, those who didn't, right? And they were thinking, okay, if we just don't bother these people, they will leave us alone. It's not working like that. So, and I'm telling you that because we in Bosnia, we have similar experiences. We also scale down our expectations. We agree with everything. We never told anybody what we want. And then what? We ended up in a concentration camps and experienced genocide. So my understanding of your question is, if we are more vocal in terms of what do we want, if we are more active expressing what do we want, if we interact more with the policy makers on all levels, perhaps they may respond to what we want. But right now, we have two big problems when it comes to politics. The problem number one, we still have an immigrant mentality. We live here, but our brains are somewhere else. And so we are kind of almost like a double people. Like, we have to understand we are here. This is because those of you from Morocco, mashallah, brother, when you go to Morocco, they don't treat you anymore as they kind of say, okay, you're here, but they look at you like you're American. Exactly. Even there, right? Yeah. You always when you go back to Uzbekistan, they look at you like, you're no longer, right? And so it's better for us to understand we are here, right? Put our, efforts and direct ourselves here. So that's the first problem. And second problem is this confusion where people talk about stuff without really knowing. So with all the respect, that's why it's very important, who do you learn from? That's why I mentioned in the beginning who I learned from. I learned from Sheikh Ibrahim, I learned from Sheikh Walid, and I learned from Sheikh Uthman Khan from Canada. And these are the people who actually, the beautiful things about them, they know the limits of their knowledge. And when they get to that limit, they say, well, you look for yourself or look further, rather than pass a judgment on things that are really not correct. So I'm sorry I took too long.
Hold on, something very important. When you vote, by the way, I vote myself. It's many, many options. Of course, the first, number one, Republican, a Democrat, this a president, many people like that. Two people want to be president. And many, many, many options. This year, actually, the ballot, one of the ballots will be this year, gays and lesbian and this, so called LGBT, long name. You don't vote. Don't vote for this, don't vote for that. Something haram, haram, don't vote.
Yes. Show your preference.
Exactly.
Perfectly fine.
Yeah.
No one will hold it against you. Why? Because individual pursuit of happiness. There's a sister question, and then
yes,
Frank. My question was kind of along the lines of, you were talking about political participation, and then I know you said voting is kind of the last step on the process, and we know that in regards to political participation, voting is a right reserved for citizens. But I'm asking for people that are maybe, live in the U.S., still contribute to society positively and all that stuff. They are also able to participate politically.
Get the question?
Say it again.
I was talking about basically all the participation and stuff. Some people might imagine that this is something that's reserved just for citizens, but I wanted to kind of see if you clarify that there are people that are not. That I was saying that voting is a right reserved for citizens. Yet there's many other things that you can do, even as a long-term resident. You're still a contributor to society, even if you're not necessarily.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for. That's why I mentioned that. Yeah, the sister said that voting is reserved just for citizens. So what, if I may summarize, what about those who are not citizens? Can they participate? Well, that's why I mentioned the political participation is all activities which people do to influence policy making. And even if you're not citizen, you can essentially affect policy making in various ways. Even if you don't have a right to vote for various reasons, some people don't have, you can affect policy making in various ways. You can volunteer your time. You can attend a meeting in the masjid and convey your preferences to your brothers who are citizens so they can talk about it to the policymakers. Policymakers, when they come to the masjid, they're not going to ask you, are you citizen or you're not citizen? They will talk to you and hear from you regardless of who you are, because they understand that you're essentially part of this society, you're paying taxes. So they want to represent you even if you're not citizen. Finally, when it comes to politics in general, right? the representatives of states in Congress are based on the population of states. And they count the population of states every 10 years in the census. And when they count the population, everybody is counted. Citizens, residents, even illegal immigrants are counted for the purpose of representation. That means those representatives are representing you, whether you are a citizen or you're not. And therefore, it is up to you to communicate, and to express your preferences. I don't want to kind of talk too much about it, but you can also donate money, which has much greater effect. You know, political scientists will tell you money has a greater role than just the vote. Voting is important, but money plays much bigger role. Let me guys tell you something. If this masjid donates, you know, $10, $15, $20,000 to any candidate, I will assure you that candidate will be once a month here asking you, you guys need anything? Right? Absolutely, right? And so donating money is a very, very, very strong indication of what do you like and what you prefer. So my suggestion is, of course, donate money. If you believe in some goal, like the Sheikh said strongly, why not? Donate money to that candidate, and you will get the thank you notes from him or her, and they will essentially very much respond to your call, to your email, to your message tomorrow when you want something. Let's say you want a traffic light in the front of the masjid when you open the school soon, inshallah, right? You want a traffic light there. Well, that person will be much more, open to respond to that if you have participated, if you have attended the meetings, if you have added, to the campaign or something, right? He would essentially be much more willing to participate. So voting is just one way. It's very fun in this message. There's always something happening. Voting is one way to participate, but not the only way. So I encourage you all to participate in any capacity that you can. In other words, if you cannot vote, it's supported in a different way. Thank you. Sorry.
Before that, Frank. Yeah, Frank.
Yes, go ahead.
Do you think that Muslims should seek to form political alliances with Christians and Jewish people, since in theory we have similar values?
Well, Brother Frank, you're already starting controversy. If you're asking me, I think absolutely yes. But this is a question for some, maybe you too.
Yes.
Of course. I mean, historically, we have done that. Prophet Muhammad used to make dua for Christians, right?
Yes.
He made dua for Christians when...
No, not the way you clean his, like 1 month, qunut, every salah, qunut. For example, last war in Palestine, happened like a few months ago, I make every salah, make qunut. And qunut. Every salah in Farida and Sunnah. And the people complain, I said, what's going on, Sheikh Ibrahim? I said, Rasulullah did that when one of the war, make 1 month, he make a qunut. And as sometimes, recently you have in Jenin, a war, every salah we did the same thing, like 2 weeks ago. So yes, yes.
So yeah, we can make, alliances with the Christians and the Jews on things that we agree.
We need one more question because the time is running fast.
So very important.
Rashid. Yeah, Rashid.
I just want to add something, the mistake that the Muslim community do in America is always waiting for the president election, then they vote, not the local vote, like local elections. And this is one of the, I already talked about that, and I addressed it before one time. And we need to encourage our community to start voting for the local in the local elections.
Soon, inshallah.
You're so much right that it is kind of painful to see. Look, brother, there's going to be explained rationally, empirically. When you vote for president, right? you as an individual, your benefit can be calculated as 1/300 million. When you vote for a local council member, your benefit is 1/10,000 people who live in your community. So in other words, it's much more important to vote in local elections, especially for Muslims. When it comes to Muslims, I would say hugely important to vote in the local elections. And I think for president is, it's a secondary to local elections because we want to improve the life of real people in the places where we live. And then finally, I wanted to say just something. Oftentimes, as immigrants, we are also burdened by things that we bring with us from home.
Yeah.
You have to make alliances, as the brother Frank asked, here based on issues and goals here. We have to keep some of these issues, we have to keep them separate from someplace else and make alliances here based on the issues that here affects us this way or that way, based on the preference. So you understand, I'm avoiding to suggest vote this, vote that. I'm just saying vote for yourself and be very rational when it comes to that. Understand the reality and see how to affect it. And absolutely, local elections way more important than the presidential election.
Sunnahfollowers, any question? Sunnahfollowers?
Did I get
Are you there? Sunnahfollowers are there?
Are you saying, Assalamu alaikum, are you saying that Muslims can vote and are we able to have a party, like they say Republicans, Democrat, and say that you've already, you were a convert and you have been voting before you became Muslim, but you had stopped voting. So can you vote or not?
Well, sister, thank you for the question. Sister says, are you saying that we can vote? Like she said, mentioned an example of a person who became Muslim, who reverted to Islam, and he used to vote, and then when he became a Muslim, he stopped voting. Well, not that I'm saying that, I'm saying it's absolutely essential now that you have become a Muslim, and when you can really help the community in a real sense, because like what the brother have asked here, he's a similar situation. He already knows a lot of people, and you can be that bridge that can somehow communicate and transfer our concerns to those policymakers. And absolutely, as far as I'm concerned, not that you can, but you should, and be very much public about it, and sort of indicate that you're doing that because you're Muslim, because this is your sense of social responsibility, where you contribute with the goodness, right? Sitting back and doing nothing, how is that going to help anybody?
Thank you.
In fact, I published a book actually. I was voting, but in Arabic. Soon, inshallah, I'm going to translate it in English with me. And I'm going to add something with Dr. Masad. Okay, we have actually 5 minutes, unfortunately. But I would love actually to have Dr. Masad, inshallah, soon to invite us here. Unfortunately, the time I told them in 45 minutes now, 1 hour and 15 minutes.
As long as I'm not canceled. Did anybody cancel me yet?
Yeah. Okay. We have a question. No, one more question, and that's it, inshallah. So the forward or here, yes.
So I wanted to say there's only been 4 Muslims ever in American history inside politics. 3 of them have been women, and all 4 of them have actually been, I won't say what political party they're part of, but I'll say they've been very unfavored by the majority Muslim community. I mean, one of them even accepted homosexuality and stuff as part of like indoctrination and stuff. So they don't really, like, when they get into politics, they tend to lose their identity. So I think it's really important, like, as Muslims,
not necessarily, but think about it. If you're a politician, like the brother, you're a politician, you do not make these coalitions with Christians and Jews, right? And this is your job. How do you make it?
Yeah.
And the only community that will vote for you are these, because Muslims don't vote.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do? Let me kind of turn it the other way. I'm just kind of create controversy since you're Timur, you're a controversial person. What if you sell ice cream? And all of a sudden, Muslims start saying, we don't want to eat ice cream, it's too cold. And that's what my business is. And now all these people who are all of a sudden coming and eating ice cream, what should I do? Close the business? Tell me who did that. No. People just tend to be more, how you say, critical of the people who exercise or do this type of jobs in public. But I will argue about those four people. One of the people who was involved in politics was Dr. Ismail Farouqi. Yes. He was slaughtered in his house in Virginia by another Muslim. And he was the one who was to establish essentially Islamic Institute, which is essentially to address the questions like that, and he was eliminated.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So there were other people who were involved, and but they were not maybe involved by being elected members. They were involved in basically addressing the community. I'm involved.
Yeah.
Hello. I just want to make a point that happened like when Muslims asking the political person that they don't like kind of action happened to them that seems happened in Michigan. They banned the pride flag. So they listened to them and they actually did that. So I agree with you that.
But this is not the only issue. I refuse to discuss that. That's not the only issue that Muslims have. Guys, think about it. Should we be not concerned about homelessness? Should we be not concerned about, lack of the healthcare? Should we be not concerned about, climate change and environmental issues? Is this the really only question that we are kind of being heated up by? Like all other injustices, doesn't matter. Just that one. Which flag is flying? I mean, of course, I'm not endorsing it, but sometimes I'm upset. It's the only thing the Muslims talk about. I mean, is there anything else that you guys are? I mean, you're boring. I mean, I can be canceled at this point. it's like, is there anything else that we are concerned with?
I just wanted to make a comment that potentially Muslims or any other people of faith would be able to make more of an impact if they focus or put more focus on local politics as opposed to, like you said, with the presidents who should have moved.
Of course.
Okay, brother, because the time. Okay. Again.
Also, I just want to add something. Like when we have a Muslim, Christian, and Jew, and we meet together, like we have this connection, it will be much better to get the right person in the.
Of course, absolutely.
Guys, thank you, Dr. Marsad, for coming out, everybody.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think Jazakallah khairan. We'd love to see you again, inshallah. Brother, about this topic, inshallah, my intention now to send a letter and contacting the congressman, the senator, the representative, to invite us here, to invite them to come to our masjid to know their agenda. We have to understand their agenda. Yes, no, we can believe it or not. When we are active like this, we're going to change the rules in this state, in this city. We'll start with the city, inshallah, together. And the key, we have to work together. Because if we are one hand, one united, we make difference. Okay, dokie?
Yeah. Something else. Just like last year, we have someone that sent us the email to meet the community. But the community, everyone somewhere. It was summertime, and didn't let him.
Sure.
Why? That's why I'm trying now. I have this idea. Like, if you guys agree, you can invite some.
Yes.
Like,
I will take care of inshallah.
Yeah.
I will take care.
Call him or send him email.
Inshallah.
Absolutely.
سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. جزاكم الله خير إن شاء الله. في أمان الله. أقم الصلاة إن شاء الله.
Okay, can you guys see me? And everybody, can anyone hear me? I hope the people wake up in Zoom. Okay, hold on. I don't hear. What is he? Can anyone hear me? Hello?
We can hear you.
Okay, about time. Hold on. I had to switch. I'm on a different computer. Hold on. That's Dremali's name still there? Okay, hold on. Okay, hold on. That was a pretty good lecture. What did you guys think about that lecture? I may not have agreed with it, but I thought it was very informative. Very good lecture. I do appreciate how Dr. Dremali, he seems to always, every weekend, he brings us very informative dialogues, very informative dialogues that I think are a great asset here to Sunnahfollowers. May Allah bless him for that, for being so diligent and for standing behind this website as long as he stood behind it, because he brings very good, interesting topics, to say the least. You got something to add, Sabrina? Go ahead.
That is the way you frame that. Yes, he does bring some interesting topics, to say the least.
Yeah, great food for thought.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that man that was with him and stuff, I don't know his name, so that's why.
His name was Dr. Mirsad. He's a teacher, a political science professor at the University of Florida. He's written a couple of books on the political process here in the United States. Yeah. Okay, give me a second to set up, guys. We got a good class coming up. My class is coming up, and I'm setting it up. You know, I have to set it up. It's nighttime. So since it's nighttime, we have to get the night lights going and get refreshed and let the hijab. Another way of wearing it. Check this one out. So Latif, I was playing with it again. I found another set. You know, some of the new convert sisters, you know, they always ask me about my hijabs. And like I tell you, sisters, you have to play in the mirror. Play in the mirror with it. That's what I do. I've been wearing hijab ever since I was 7 years old. But alhamdulillah, there's so many different ways. You have to find your own style. You can't copy or mimic anyone else. You have to look at the shape of your face. I have a long face. I have a horse face. It's what Tyra Banks calls the horse face. Okay, so with a horse face, anything that's going to be flat is going to make my face longer. So I have to put some volume to it. See, look the difference. You can see how long my face is. So I have to put volume on it to make it more regal and royal, to make me not, my face, you know, not be so long. And I learned that from watching America's Next Top Model. Those shows come in handy. And then you have to just sit in the mirror, sisters, and play with it. Look at yourself. And just, I've been playing with this one. I really like this one that Norto and them sent me. I think this is from Habiba. You know, I really like, you know, I can just play with it. Y'all see? And find what looks best for you. I mean, a woman looks more beautiful with clothes on than with clothes off. That's why I don't understand why the new convert sisters, I don't know why you guys have a hard time covering up. We even got people that were born Muslim. I really don't understand why these Arabic sisters, you know, think that they look more attractive naked. You don't look attractive. I mean, don't no man want to look at that. I mean, come on, let the imagination roll, and, you know, play on your you know, your strengths, and just look in the mirror and play with it, sisters. Seriously. All right, I'm giving y'all a little break. That's why I'm talking, so y'all can use your bathrooms or whatnot. So we go to the next class because we got some powerful stuff we're getting ready to talk about now. This is my class, the lawful and the unlawful. Some very powerful stuff we're getting ready to go over. In fact, I'm still streaming on all the social platforms, right? Let me look on here just to make sure. Telegram? Okay, hold on. Getting ready to put it on Telegram. By the way, Sister Dahlia just joined Telegram.
What?
Yeah, I'm gonna see if she'll come in here because I'm gonna. I just sent her.
By the way, Sister Dahlia just joined Telegram.
Let's see if she comes in. Yeah. Hold on. Yeah. All right. Okay. Okay. All right. Everybody's here? Wait a minute. Okay. All right.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hey Sunnah Followers family, if you appreciate the daily programming streaming on all platforms such as YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, and many more, we are urgently asking for donations to keep these shows running. Please donate, which would be considered a sadaqah jariyah on your behalf. You can donate by clicking the donation button on the Sunnahfollowers.net website. Or, for the YouTubers, scan the QR code on top of the videos on your left-hand side. And you can also send your donations to Layla at Sunnahfollowers.net. That's Layla, Laila, at Sunnahfollowers.net. Jazakallahu khairan.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, and welcome to our next class, which is our series on the lawful and the unlawful in Islam. And mashallah, you guys saw an excerpt from the video that I put out a couple of days ago that's kind of letting you know what we're going to talk about today. The last time we met for this class, what did we discuss? We talked about pictures and statues. Pictures and statues in the home of the Muslim. Let me ask a couple of questions, and I do mean a couple. What about this, guys? If I had a statue in my house, but it wasn't really a statue, I had a bust. It was just a half face of a person looking up, and that's it. There was no body parts to it other than the face, the hands, and of course, it did. It's just a bust. Is that permissible in Islam to have in my house, in my home? Can anyone answer that? This is not a hard question. Come on, people. Let's get through this.
I would say yes.
Okay. Why would you say yeah?
It doesn't have the whole body. It doesn't have the whole face. So it's not an image that God has made.
Okay, and what do you base that on, or whatever?
I based it on the fact that Allah said it has to have a soul, or it has to, something that is something He made.
Okay, anything else that to base it on? What do you guys think about her answer? Would she get beat up by the people with that type of answer? Would the innovators, the deviators attack her with that type of answer? What do you guys think?
No.
Who is that saying no? Chris? Chris, you new here?
Yeah, I've been here before.
How old are you? You're a kid?
11.
Oh, mashallah. Welcome to Sunnahfollowers. Can you remember a hadith in which the prophet talked about anything like this? About, not whatever she was saying? Is there anything that can come to your mind?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You can have, it can be a statue, as long as it's not on display, or people seeing it, or you're not worshiping it.
Okay, that's a good point. But is that point correct, guys? What do the rest of y'all think? He gave y'all some good information that y'all can use to try to articulate better. The kids always do better than the adults do here. And I always find that intriguing. Come on, there's a lot of people in my Zoom room. Can y'all wake up and let's get through this? This is important stuff because you guys ask these questions all the time. What about it if I had a bust? Do y'all know what a bust is? Let me show you what a bust is. I got one sister here asking what's a bust. Okay, that's a fair question. Let me see if I can Google a picture of a bust. I'll give you a very, very popular bust. This is a very, very, very popular bust that you guys have probably seen in people's houses. Look at my screen. This is a bust of Nefertiti. Nefertiti. She was one of the queens of Egypt. Can everybody see this picture here? Would it be permissible for me to have this bust in my house on display? Look how much it costs. This bust of Nefertiti, I know I'm pronouncing it bad. Nefertiti is $132. Y'all see how much it costs? That's a lot of money to pay for something like this. That if it falls down on the ground, it could break, it could crack. But you'll see this in a lot of people's homes. People that's into heritage and stuff. See how it looks? Look at this bust. Look, guys, y'all see it? Take a look. $132. If somebody gave that to you as a gift, look how it looks from the side. Side view of it. This is Nefertiti. Okay? Can we have this in our home? Who would like to answer the question now? I think I got y'all's attention. Can somebody get on that mic and give me some?
Have this in your home.
Why? Why would you say I can? I mean, remember when y'all answer, you have to answer with what?
You can have in your house, as long as that is that not a picture or you're not worshiping it. It can be a display in your house, as long as you're not worshiping it, or is a picture. If it was a picture, you cannot have it in your house.
Okay, that's a good thing, but what does she need to do? Chris needs to put a hadith to it. Can anybody think of a hadith that would go with what Chris is saying? What about you adults? Wake up. There's 21 of you adults in there. Sister Amina Fresno, Sister Sabrine, Sister Fatima. I'm just going to start calling out names. Latifa, Norto, Mayliun, Fame, Yasmin, Tariq, Habiba. Can we have something like this? Do y'all have a hadith that addresses this? Remember, we talk.
It don't have a soul. if it's a complete figure, and if you can have it, but it's not a complete figure. If it was a complete figure, well, then we can't have it. Anything with a soul.
Okay, you guys are given all the rationale. You guys are given all the rationale in the world, which is one of the signs of the last hour. But none of you have given a hadith. Have y'all forgotten? In just 1 week, the hadith, do y'all see how the sunnah becomes forgotten? Can let me look on YouTube. Okay, I see some people on YouTube here. Okay, same thing, Brother Ahmed. Mashallah, but can y'all give me a hadith? You're saying the same thing that Chris is saying and that Sharmila's saying. You know, it's not a full image. Okay? It's not a full body. It's not being worshipped. It doesn't have a soul. But what is a hadith to support everything that y'all saying? Y'all really can't remember?
I can answer.
Well, why come y'all don't? Get on the mic. Go ahead.
I can answer.
Go ahead, baby. Who is that?
Sabrina.
Of course, my baby can. Tell him the hadith, Sabrina.
The prophet said you can have anything that does not look exact, that does not have a full, like, mannequin of a human. That means it doesn't have legs, it doesn't have hands, or probably doesn't even have a head.
Exactly. And what happened to make the prophet say that? Tell him what happened, Sabrina.
I don't really remember that part.
Oh God, my baby.
I got that part.
Okay, well, let's hear it. What happened?
The angel Jabril came to see the prophet, and there was a statue at the door, and he said he couldn't come in because of that statue. So the prophet had that statue's head taken off so that it did not resemble a human at all.
Exactly. That's the hadith that you guys never, ever, ever in your life forget, because that's the clear evidence. When the angel Jabril came to meet with the prophet one night to teach him the religion, he couldn't enter. And the prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam waited all night for him. The next morning, when the prophet went to go to the mosque to make fajr, Jabril was standing outside his house. And Jabril said, what kept me from entering is this statue that's by your door. He said, we cannot enter a home that has statues or dogs in it. And that's when the angel Jabril told the prophet, the angel Jabril told him, take it, deface its head, which means take off his head. And that way it was just the body, no head. There's no such thing as a man with a body, but no head. And evidently it was one of the Grecian statues. Remember, guys, this was the 8th century. In the 8th century, there were lots of statues that the Romans and Greeks had put out of Athena, Apollo. You know how they were good at that stuff. You know, and it was considered prestigious to have a Grecian statue or to have a Roman statue of somebody that was of importance back in those days. Okay, so the angel Jabril had him deface it by knocking off his head. And he told him, and that way it will look like a tree trunk, because, you know, you look at the Roman statues, they pose like this. So if I cut off the head, it's like a tree with just arms and twigs. You know, that's changing the creation. So that way it's not a creation. That's changing the creation. Allah didn't create us to look like a tree without a head. Okay, so that's the hadith, that's the dalil for that. So if I wanted to get a bust, yes, that bust of Nefertiti, I could have it. Number one, look at it. She has no arms. The arms are gone. No body. The eye was tip-sided. Okay, looked like somebody took her something and poked the eye out. You know, it was cracked to the side this way. And I liked the second one because there was no color to it. It was just white. No eye. That one had no features at all. It was just a molded of it, but of what could have been something. So that's what a bust is. And so when you go to a Muslim's house, because you may go to a person's house and see a bust. Egyptians love to have busts. Okay, they have bust of Nefertiti, bust of who they think is Cleopatra, who wasn't even Egyptian, and the like Mark Antony. You know, you might even find Caesar himself. Some of them even got Pharaoh. Okay, if it's a bust, it's okay based on that hadith. That's when the prophet told the people, knock the heads off those statues. He said, all of you, you people who have statues outside your houses or in your houses, he said, take the heads off of them. That way you're defacing them so that they no longer look like a person. Okay? Everybody understand that? So that's what we talked about last week, you know, defacing a statue. What about this? I have a job. I am an artist. I am a computer artist, because everybody does everything on the computer nowadays. Okay, and I want to make a cartoon. I want to do a cartoon, some Islamic cartoons. Can I draw or make animated cartoons? Yes or no, and tell me why.
Yes.
Okay, why?
Because that cartoon has no soul. It's not worshipped. It's fiction. It's fiction.
Okay, what does he mean by fiction? Chris, you're a boy too, right?
Yes.
Good, alhamdulillah. You know, what is meant by fiction? What does he mean by fiction, y'all?
That is not real.
What does that mean? Y'all got to learn how to, God, I can't get over how y'all can't talk.
That is not real. It doesn't have a soul.
Oh,
it was not.
Y'all keep repeating this soul. Doesn't have a soul, doesn't have a soul, doesn't. If I was a Sufi, I'd come in here and flow drop y'all. What are you talking about? What you mean? You don't even know what a soul is. The soul is something only Allah knows. What are you talking about, sister? Can somebody explain this stuff better? Why is it that I can be a cartoonist? What makes that profession legal? Just explain what makes a cartoonist a legal profession. And don't mention nothing about a soul, because it ain't got nothing to do with a soul. Go ahead, Sabrina.
Because basically Allah didn't make humans to look like anime.
Exactly. The children know. You know, look at the cartoons. Cartoons are animated. Don't no human being have no eyes like that. Don't no human being have no smile like that. You know, cartoonists, they're not making it look real anyway. Okay, the human beings don't move like that. We don't move like, how many of you seen the movie Enchanted? What made that movie so fantastical for the little girls and even the little girl in me? That's one of my favorite movies, Disney's Enchanted. When she became real, and remember how that actress was? She acted like a cartoonist for real. She would talk and say, and she would move her hands like this. She'd move out like that. This is not how we move. But what made Enchanted one of the best movies ever? Because they brought to life Snow White. That's not how we move. We don't do that. Our eyes are not like that. And I'm not doing the robot. Our eyes are not like that. If you do walk around like that, something wrong with you. Y'all got it? So it's not real. So that means you're not competing, like Chris said. You're not competing with Allah. You're making a cartoon. And it's different than a real person. The eyes are not the same. The eyes are big and don't blink. The lips are not the same. The hands are not the same. And the movement is not the same either. Okay? So it's a lawful profession. Stop telling kids they can't go to school to be a computer animator. I don't know where you brothers get this crazy stuff y'all come from. Y'all better go learn the deen. Stop making the deen hard on the children. And we wonder why the kids turning to drugs. They turn to drugs, sex, and rock and roll because y'all telling them that everything is haram. You're telling them that they can't write fiction when they can. You're telling them that they can't be a cartoonist when they can. Stop making these kids oppressed, and that's why they turning into drugs and sex and rock and roll. Hello. All right. What about this? I need to make money, and I'm pretty good with my, Allah has gifted me with the ability to draw. And so I set up a table downtown, and I tell people as they walk by, I'll draw a caricature of you. I'll draw a caricature of you. Pay me $2 and I'll draw a caricature of you. I had a relative that did that. I had a relative that used to earn extra money. My relative would set up a little booth in a place where the people frequent at the park, and he would draw caricatures. Is that permissible? Why or why not? Do y'all know what a caricature is? Hold on, let me show. Wait a minute. Okay, hold on. Let me show what a caricature is. One of the kids here want to know what a caricature is. Hold on. Let me get it. Okay. Caricatures can be kind of scary too. I personally, just for the kids here, I don't like caricatures because they scare me. I had one drawn of me before. It wasn't nice. It scared me. Okay, this is a caricature. Look at this. Y'all know who that man? This is supposed to be Obama. This is a caricature of him. Y'all see that? Here's another picture. This little girl, that's a caricature of her. Here's a caricature of this woman. A lot of people make little extra money. Look at this. This is a caricature of The Rock. The Rock, and there's a caricature. Look at this man. The famous 90-Day Fiance. That's a caricature. Y'all see what caricatures are? You can imagine how they made my caricature look. That's why I'm scared of them. Look at this caricature. A caricature is when they'll take and draw a picture of you, but it's not you. They will overemphasize the parts of your face that may be flawed. Like with this caricature of Will Smith. Will Smith, everybody knows, has big ears. He's got big teeth, big, long, wide nose. Look how they caricatured him. Okay. This woman here, they caricatured her lips. They caricatured her eyebrows. Can y'all see how they probably did me? They made me look like a fantastical wolf girl. It scared me though. Y'all know I like wolves. They had my eyebrows going all the way across, and they had my eyes super big, and they had my nose real long like Pinocchio, and my face was real skinny like this, and they had this thing that's supposed to be my hijab. I looked like something scary, and I screamed, and I never did caricatures, had anybody caricature me again. Because y'all know I suffer with a little bit of that thing called narcissism. And y'all know what that thing is, perfection. I have to always remind myself that perfection belongs to Allah. If you show me that something's not right about me, it'll freak me out. I'll get OCD'd and go crazy. Okay? And that's what they did. They scared me. So everybody that know me know Layla's scared of caricatures. So tell me, is that something permissible to do? If I can draw, my granddaughter, Jayla, that's who I was talking about that was making some money. Jayla is good. She can draw, paint, anything. We went to Tennessee one day. She wanted to go ride on some ride. We told her we ain't got no money for you. You know what that little girl did? She sat there and put a table together and started caricaturing people. That girl made $100. She made $100. charging $2 to draw caricatures. Was that lawful in Islam? Is that lawful? What do you guys think?
I'm not for sure.
Okay, anybody else that is for sure? Is that permissible?
Yes, you're allowed to, because it doesn't look like you.
Exactly, because it's not a real person. A real person ain't no werewolf. I ain't got no eyebrows. Don't nobody's eyebrows look like a wolf. And they even gave me wolf ears. There's no, that probably would be cute, but there is no, idea. But anyway, ain't no human being with no wolf ears. Be kind of cute though, if they had made it look nice. They even made my eyes big like a wolf, and they gave me the irises like a wolf. I look like a wolf girl, but it was kind of scary. So yes, that's okay, guys, because you're exaggerating the features of something that has a soul. Do y'all get it now? So that's permissible. But what about this? I said I'm going to sit here and pose. And who can draw or paint or even sculpt the best of me? Is that permissible? I'll pay you $1,000 to whoever can recreate me to the best. Everything just like I am, including my bling. Is that permissible for you to do, guys? And my ring. Is that permissible? To paint me as I am, sculpt me as I am? It ain't gonna have no soul. It's not gonna have a soul because it ain't me. But can you do it?
Even though it doesn't have a soul, no, because it looks like an actual human being that you're trying to draw.
So that means you're doing what? You're trying to do what?
Compete with the law.
Exactly. You're competing with a law. If I sat here and offered to pay $1,000 to anybody that can draw me as I really am, just like this, paint me, draw me, sculpt me, you are competing to recreate something that Allah created. That's what's haram. Do y'all understand that? That's what's haram. You know, that's why Ibn Abbas said, if you want to draw pictures, draw a picture of a tree or a car or something like that. But anything with a soul, you're competing with Allah. You can't recreate me. You cannot duplicate me. Okay? This is perfected by Allah. And that's something that I want you kids to understand. Love yourself. No matter how you look, love yourself because Allah perfected you. There is no flaw on me. And that's something that we have to tell ourselves. You are perfected because Allah created you in the image He wanted you to be in. You're perfect the way you are. Your color, your eyes, your hair, your skin, your height. You are perfect the way you are because it was created. You were created by Allah. And can't nobody duplicate you. That's how you break yourself out of that perfection stuff. Okay? All right. So that's what we discussed the last time we met in this class. Okay? About pictures in the house. And all that type of stuff, statues. Everybody here knows we cannot hang up pictures of our children. We cannot hang up pictures of our cats, even my cats. I love my cats, but I cannot put pictures of my cats on display. But if I got a box of cereal with the bunny rabbit on it, that's a cartoon. I don't have to worry about covering him up. He's a cartoon bunny. Or even if I do have a box of cereal that has a real bunny rabbit on it, you know, that's something different because why? Why is that different? What's different about that? Why is it I don't have to worry about covering up the pictures of the people who are on the cereal boxes? Why is it that I don't have to worry about covering up the animals that's on the cans of food? Why? Who can remember that reason? Why is it? Yeah,
It's
go ahead.
not on display.
Not just that, but what else? What about it? Adults, y'all should remember this. What's the difference between a box of cereal, a can of food, and a statue? What's the difference between a box of cereal, a box of rice, and a photograph hanging on the wall? The fabric, the material, three-dimensional. A photograph is three-dimensional. A statue is solid and three-dimensional. But a box of cereal is made out of paper. A can of green beans, that's made out of tin. That's not three-dimensional. It can be bent. It can be folded. Do you guys get it? And this is what we're going to talk about today. You know, why is it that I don't have to worry about the pictures that's on my box of cereal, the pictures on my rice, the pictures even, you know, on a magazine? I got a magazine down here that got a picture of Brad Pitt saying, "What's up, Lay? I'm still here waiting on you." I ain't got to cover Brad Pitt up because Brad Pitt's on paper. That's one-dimensional. I want y'all to remember that statues are three-dimensional and solid. Remember the rule. The rule is if it's solid and three-dimensional and complete. Box of cereal, let me kick it. Fold it up, throw it in the garbage can. Box of popcorn, bag of potato chips. Brad Pitt, goodbye. Throw them in the trash. Hello. Y'all see that? One-dimensional. That's our topic for today. What about one-dimensional things? Okay. Let's put the PowerPoint up on the screen. All right. I just did this PowerPoint before class too. So any mistakes in it, guys, I apologize early for it. Y'all know I threw this together while Dr. Dremali was doing his lecture. Okay, so today we're going to speak about paintings and one-dimensional ornaments. You guys look at the pictures here. Okay, this is a curtain, or you might see a person with a screen like this that has a scene from the Serenity, whatever you call it, of an elephant. Whose bed this is? There go Layla's bed. That's my bedspread, guys, with my cats. There's Layla's cats and lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. And then look at that. There's a Fresno's couch with her giraffes and rhinos and all that going on. Me too. Okay. Is this permissible? The fanatical Muslims would come into your house if they saw my bedroom. Y'all know I got cats everywhere. I got the curtains. I got the bedspreads, pillows, comforters, and don't even think about my bathroom. I got lions and tigers and bears. Oh my, hanging up in my shower for you to step on and all that. Some person that doesn't know the religion but think they do, let's call them the haram police. They'll come in my house and say, "Astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, Sister Layla Nashiba going to hell. She can ready to bust it wide open, man. She got lions and tigers and bears everywhere." But is this true? Well, let's take a look at what the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said about lions and tigers on your bed. Hello. All right. Now, when we talk about one-dimensional ornaments are things that are not solid. It's not like a statue. It's not like a piece of wood that's been carved into. It's not something that's clay, like a cup. Remember the sister asked me, can she put a picture of herself on her cup? A coffee cup? A coffee cup is made of glass. A coffee cup is made of ceramic. It's porcelain. This is solid. That's three-dimensional. We don't do that. But what about one-dimensional ornaments? Okay. One-dimensional ornaments. But before I talk about that, let's go over what we said about statues. A lot of people will ask us, Sister Layla, the hadiths are clear about statues and three-dimensional. But what about figures and artwork that people put on plain surfaces like paper? My Brad Pitt looking up at me, smiling right now, winking. Take that wink off, Brad. La ilaha illallah first. Or what about pictures on cloth like this shirt? Look at this t-shirt. I think it's pretty cool. That's 3D. That's 3D. That's a 3D design on a 1D ornament. Looks like a real puppy dog. That's a t-shirt, guys, with a dog's face on it. What about curtains like I have with my tigers on it? What about walls that I paint with giraffes and stuff? What about pictures on money? Well, I want you guys to understand there is no, I repeat, there is no, I repeat again, there is no general ruling on this stuff. That means we have to look at each item individually to make our ruling. Do y'all understand that? And when we make the ruling, we have to think about the following things. Number one, what is the picture of? Number two, where's the picture placed? Number three, what are you using it for? Number four, what was the person that did its intention? We have to look at all four of those questions before we make a ruling. Because I can tell you, looking at this t-shirt, this is okay. But what if the person, this t-shirt, this is a picture of your dog that just died? I have to change my answer. Y'all see that? Just like with the sister that asked me last Friday for our Q&A. She said, Sister Layla, can I have a mug, a coffee cup, take a picture of myself and put on a coffee cup? No, because what if you die? Your children, how are they going to be able to move on and accept the qadr of Allah when they looking at your face out the cabinet every day and they know you drink coffee out that cup? So we have to look at that type of stuff. Okay? But as a general rule, there is no general rule on that. And I'm going to prove this to y'all. But as people of knowledge, we have to look at each of those cases individually. Like I said, if a person came to me and said, Layla, can I wear this picture of a dog? Can I wear this t-shirt I bought? I just bought it. I thought it was cool. Yeah, you can wear it. But what if the person said, it's my dead dog? My dog died, so I had his picture taken and put it on here. Now it's changed. The answer has changed. I was looking on some of y'all's Facebooks. Some of you guys, my students, y'all have pictures of your family member on your t-shirts. Don't do that. Family members who passed away, don't do that, guys, because this is standing in the way of you accepting the qadr of Allah. You will end up eulogizing that person like they did with Tupac. Look at all the t-shirts with Tupac and Biggie D on them back in my era when they got killed. That prevented people from moving on, trying to keep their eulogy going. We don't do that, guys. Okay, so we have to, when it comes to one-dimensional ornaments, we have to look at them individually and make a ruling because there is no one general rule. And again, I want you guys to remember that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the people that will receive the most severe punishment will be the people that used to make pictures of things that had a soul. Okay? But like Brother Chris was saying, our kid here, If you're making a picture and it's on a one-dimensional ornament and it's not being worshiped, you're not doing it to compete with Allah. You're not doing it because you worship that thing, or you're trying to remember someone that's dead or fallen, or because you or whatever, then you know the answers are going to be different. And we have to look at the intention. Okay. Now here's another thing. What about the category of one-dimensional things or ornaments that includes pictures of kings and leaders of our time? We have to avoid this, guys. Say, for example, I want to put a picture of Obama on my pocketbook, my purse. I want to put a picture of the king of Saudi Arabia on my t-shirt and wear him. I want to put a picture of Sheikh Kareem Abu Zaid on my jilbab and wear him. Okay, we have to avoid stuff like that, guys. Okay, because this can lead to that eulogizing. Y'all understand? What you wearing Kareem Abu Zaid on you for, Layla? I like him. He's a good dyer. He's a good caller. I love his books. Sister Layla, there's a thin line between liking and worshiping. You're wearing this man. Maybe you like him a little bit in the wrong way. So we need to avoid stuff like that, guys. Plus, this leads to lewdness, immorality, and all that other stuff. A brother walking around with a picture of Layla Nashiba on him. What kind of stuff is that? Why you need a t-shirt with my picture on? Who you think? Man, are you crazy? I would think you are. If I saw a man walking around with a picture of me on his t-shirt, brother, you got some issues. Okay? Now, during the 8th century, that's the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I told you those were the dark ages in history. The Romans, the Greeks, the Persians, the Vikings, the Egyptians. Back in that era, whenever a person was a virtue, who they thought was a virtue, they would eulogize them by putting them on paintings. Like, this is King Henry. They would paint the picture of King Henry. They would make a sculpture of Caesar the Great. They would make a bust of Nefertiti. Okay? This is what they did back in those days. And that existed during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Listen to this hadith from Abu Duha. He said, I was with Masruq in a house that had statues. And Masruq asked me, are these statues of the king of Persia? And I told them, no, these are statues of Mary Masruq, who assumed them to be the handiwork of a Magian, because the Magians, who were Persians, they used to portray the figures of their kings even on jars. They would put their kings and rulers' pictures on cups and jars like y'all doing today. And that's when Ibn Masud said, I heard the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam say, among the people who will receive the worst punishment on the day of judgment will be the makers of figures. So this hadith here is the dalil that clearly lets us know not to do that. We don't put pictures of people living or dead on anything like that, even to drink out of it, because this leads to lewdness. This leads to immorality. And by the way, I was looking on YouTube, and we living in the days of fitan. One of these famous speakers, he went to the United Kingdom to give some lectures. Oh my God, they were showing the turnout he had. He brought the house down, as they say. And oh my God, some of the people had t-shirts with his picture on them. think it was Mufti Meek. Yeah, I think it was Mufti Meek. They had pictures of Mufti Meek all over their t-shirts and stuff. I mean, come on. This is worship, dudes. What are you doing? Who is Mufti Meek? He ain't nobody. Nobody. Just another son of Adam. Okay? Why are you wearing t-shirts and thobes and hijabs? The women had hijabs with Mufti Meek on them. I mean, come on. Get real. This is haram. What are you doing? This is transgressing the limits. Remember, as Muslims, we are people of dignity, humility, and balance. We have to balance our emotions, balance our attachment to others, balance our respect for others. We don't want to go too far to the right nor too far to the left, and that everything is balanced. I'm going to put you on my hijab. Are you crazy, dude? Who are you? That's just crazy. But it's on YouTube. They did that. Okay. So this is why, again, Ibn Abbas said, if you're going to draw, if you're going to paint, do paint pictures of trees and plants and inanimate objects like a lake, an ocean, a ship, a mountain. You can draw the sun, the moon, the stars, a night scene, a morning scene, a forest scene, do something like that, because that keeps you from transgressing the limits of Allah. Okay? We have this hadith from Sahih Muslim, whereas one of the companions said that the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said the angels do not enter a house in which there are figures, pictures of people hanging up on display, pictures of animals on display like that. So be careful of that stuff, guys. You don't want no pictures of and portraits and stuff like that, people. All right. Here's another hadith I want you guys to ponder. We have the hadith of Basr. He said Zayd became sick. And he was another companion. Zayd became sick and we went to visit him. And when we went to visit him, there was a picture on the curtain of his door to his house. So I said to my friend, who was the servant of the Prophet's wife, Maymuna, was it not Zayd who taught us that about pictures the other day? And the companion said, well, didn't you hear him say, except if it is made of cloth? Ponder this authentic hadith. A person may come to my house, look at my bedspread, look at my bedroom with all these beautiful tigers, white tigers. I love white tigers. I like white cats. I got a white cat. Okay? And they may say, Astaghfirullah, Sister Layla, are you worshiping cats? No, they're on cloth. They're like debased. I sleep on those blankets. I sit on those blankets. I lay on those blankets. My cats lay on them. My cats fight with them. They chew them. I pull them curtains. Okay? This is not anything of worship. And these lions and tigers are nothing dear to me. I have no attachment to them. They're just decor. And they're on cloth. Y'all see that? It's one-dimensional. It's one-dimensional. So there's a dalil that shows, yes, I can have a curtain or a bedspread that has a picture of an animal on it. Check out this authentic hadith too. We have this hadith that's narrated on the authority of Utbah, that he went to visit Abu Talha al-Ansari. He's one of the ones promised paradise. And Abu Talha was sick. And he found Sahal ibn Hanif, another companion there. So Abu Talha called someone to come up and tear the sheet that was underneath him. And Saul asked him, why do you want somebody to tear your sheet? He said, because there's pictures on it. And you know what the prophet said about the pictures. And then the companion said, but didn't he also say, unless the pictures are on something made of cloth? And Abu Talha said, yes, but it still makes me feel better to tear it up anyway. This hadith is authentic. So these two hadiths are proofs that I can have pictures of animals or whatnot on something that's of cloth or paper or anything that's one-dimensional, because I'm debasing it. Okay, and there's the source. So again, do not these two hadith prove that the figures that are forbidden are those that are solid, those that are on three-dimensional solid stuff, a solid, breakable cup, glass, okay? But for pictures drawn or printed on wood, paper, cloth, rugs, carpets, walls, and that, there again is no sound, explicit, straightforward hadith that proves they are haram. So when you have people telling you this stuff is haram, they can't prove it. Because I'm getting ready to show y'all some more hadiths. Like we said, like the companion said, we have to look at each case individually. The intent, the person that did it, why, and all of that. Okay, because these hadiths I just gave y'all are authentic. But check this out. Here we go. We have this authentic hadith too from Sahih Muslim. If I didn't repeat it. Abu Talha said, I heard the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam say, the angels do not enter a house in which there is a dog or statues. I then went to visit Aisha and I asked her, did you know that the Prophet said that angels don't enter a home in which there's a dog or statues? And this just shows how women are very intelligent. The companions would always, whenever they would hear something that they didn't know if it were true or not, they would always go and ask one of the Prophet's wives, because the Prophet's wives knew him better than they did in a way that they didn't know. So Abu Talha asked her, did you know that the Prophet said that? She said, no, I didn't hear that, but I'll tell you what I did hear him say. She said, one day when he went on an expedition, I draped the door with a curtain that had pictures on it. When he came back, he saw it, and I could see from his face that he didn't like it. He pulled it down and he ripped it apart and said, Allah has not commanded us to put clothing on stone and clay. She said, so we cut that curtain up and we made 2 pillows out of it, and we stuffed them with palm fibers, and we used it to sit on. And he did not criticize me for that. This hadith sounds like it's contradicting the other two, doesn't it? Because in this hadith, the Prophet tore these curtains down that had pictures on them. Okay? But in the other hadiths, he said it's okay as long as the pictures are on things made of cloth or paper or wood. Okay? I'm going to explain that there is no contradiction. But I'm just going to tell you, this is why we have to look at each case individually. And again, here's more of that hadith. Aisha said we had a curtain that had a picture of a bird on it. When the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam entered the house and saw it, he said, remove it. When I enter and see it, I am reminded of the life of this world. That explains a lot. That explains a lot. The prophet didn't say it was haram. The prophet didn't mention nothing about any of this being haram. He told Aisha, as you can see in that second hadith, that's why you have to know the whole story. He told her to take it down because it reminded him of how so many people get lost in the money and the luxuries of this world that they don't think about the hereafter. Remember, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam could have been the richest man in the world. He chose to be poor, guys. He chose to live a poor, modest life. Allah made him the offer. He said, if you want, I can give you all the wealth of the king of Persia. He turned it down. Okay? He had just come back from fighting against the selfish, narcissistic Quraysh, who were all about money. Here he comes home from his expedition and he sees his wife bought a new curtain, a beautiful curtain, and hung it up. He told her, tear it down. It reminded him of how lost and ignorant the Quraysh were. They'll sell their souls for the life of this world. Y'all see why it's important to know the history? Otherwise, you would do like a lot of these famous brothers are doing. They're reading these hadiths. They don't know what happened, and they're telling you that it's haram to have nice things. It's haram to have jewelry. It's haram to have a nice house. It's haram to be beautiful. It's haram to wear gold. It's haram to do this, because they don't know the history. I know the history. You got to learn the history of stuff. So that's why he made that statement to her. He had just got back from fighting, and he was so disgusted with the Quraysh and their preoccupation with the life of this world. He didn't tell her it's haram. He told her tear it down. And what did she do? She made pillows out of it, a cushion, and they sat on it. They used the prophet would sit on it. Okay? The religion, Islam, is not complicated. You just have to learn it from the correct sources. So here you can see the prophet did not tell her to tear and burn the curtain, but to remove it from the place where it hung, because he didn't want to see it there, because it brought to his mind the life of this world and its attractions. Okay? Subhanallah. Curtains, bedspreads, statues. This type of thing would have distracted him. Remember, guys, he was a prophet of Allah. He was not like you or me. He was better than us. He focused on Allah all the time, even when he slept. What did he say? Even when I'm asleep, my heart still is with Allah. So he didn't want the life of this world to distract him. And that's why he made all his wives an offer. Because I told y'all, we talking about in my other series, the story of the prophet's wives. None of his wives were poor women. They were all women of nobility and wealth. He made them an offer. He said, y'all choose. If you want the wealth of this world, let me know and I'll let you go. I'll divorce you and you can go have all the wealth of this world you want. But if you're going to stay with me, it's about the hereafter. All his wives, he went to everyone and made her that offer. They all chose to give everything up for the hereafter and stay with him. So he didn't want no reminders of the life of this world. His whole mission was up there, to go up, not down, and not to be caught in limbo. Okay? So here's another hadith from Sahih Bukhari. Anas tells us that Aisha had covered a part of her apartment with a drape. This is the same hadith. And the prophet told her to take it away from him because it distracts him from prayer. He didn't want her to have colorful distractions around him, because he did a lot of voluntary prayers at home. So the prophet did not disprove this, didn't say it's haram, He just preferred to not have any pictures around him because they were a distraction for him. So as you guys see, the hadiths do not contradict each other. It's just that you need to learn the history of Islam, which is something that Muslims don't learn no more. Just like they're not learning the stories of the companions. They don't know about the Prophet's wives. They don't know nothing except Islam Q&A Fatwa online website. That's it. Okay? So he never said this stuff was haram. And there is no contradiction in what he said to the companions and what he said to Aisha. Okay? And I put this other stuff in here for the brothers. Where are you in here? Take a screenshot, brothers. Because the brothers wanted me to give all these this other information about Imam Nawawi and his Sharj Muslim, Faith al-Bari, al-Hafiz, blah, 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 blah. There it is. I did your research. Take a screenshot. Y'all got it? Let me know. Okay. There is only one hadith, and this hadith is narrated in both Bukhari and Muslim. Again, it's the hadith of Aisha, and this is the hadith that a lot of the people try to use to try to make it everything haram, but we're going to explain that too. This is the hadith about the cushion. She said she bought a cushion that had pictures on. This ain't the curtain. This is a cushion. She bought a cushion that had pictures on it. And when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw that, he refused to come in her house. You know, Aisha was young, a teenager. She liked nice things. She was no project girl. You know, her father was wealthy. She liked nice things. She wanted to have a nice home, like Layla Nashiba. But her husband, remember, she was married to a prophet. He spent his time remembering Allah in that home. So when he saw that, oh my God, first she had a curtain. Now, and wait till I do her story. Y'all gonna see a lot of humor. There's a lot of humor in the life and the marriage of Aisha and the Prophet Muhammad. Because she was a young girl, silly little girl, like Layla. Okay? I'm a grown old woman. I'm still silly. Okay? Here he come home and she had a new curtain. This time he comes home and see she got a cushion with all these pictures and caricatures on it. He stopped, shook his head, and refused to come in the door. She said, "Oh, Prophet of Allah, I turned to Allah and you in repentance. What did I do wrong this time?" He said, "Aisha, what is this cushion?" Now, he had already told her about them curtains. I can't be distracted. He said, "What is this cushion?" She said, "Oh, husband, I bought it for you to sit on so you can rest your head." Aisha was only 13 or 14 years old at this time, guys. And that's when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Didn't I tell you, Aisha, the makers of these type of things will be punished. They will be told to bring to life what they created." He said, "And the angels do not enter a house in which there are these type of figures." And that's when Aisha pouted, but she went on ahead, took some scissors, and she cut it. And what did she do with it? She turned this cushion into 2 pillows. Okay? Now, a lot of people try to use that hadith to say it's haram to have, but let me show you how we get ready to tear that hadith to pieces. But the people that saying that it's haram. Number one, this hadith has been transmitted in many different versions. And some of the versions do contradict themselves. You got, that was Bukhari, you got a Muslim version, you got a Muwatta version. Some of the people say that this is the same hadith about the curtain. Some people say it's not the hadith of the curtain. So there's different versions on that. So Allah knows best. I personally think it's a separate hadith because I know the story of Aisha well. Aisha liked nice things and was trying to make her husband happy. Aisha couldn't cook, y'all. Wait till I do her story. Whereas Khadijah's is the story of a perfect marriage. Okay. Aisha's is the story of a young girl trying to be all that in a bag of chips and don't know how. She couldn't even cook. Every time she tried to cook something, it burnt up. Okay. But she was always trying to be the best wife. She wanted to outdo the other wives. So I believe it's a separate hadith and not the same one. I think he admonished her about the curtains. And then she said, okay, no more curtains. But since he allowed me to make a cushion, I like this cushion. I want this in the house for him. Because I know she was competing. She wanted him to spend all his time with her. She was so jealous and jealous of Zainab, who he used to go and visit her a lot and eat honey with. Okay, so I think it's separate, but Allah knows best. Some people think it's the same hadith that's been worded to be a cushion instead of a curtain. I think it's not. Okay. Also, according to some other versions, his only disapproval was covering walls with printed curtains. Okay, because he said that that's like imitating the Romans, because the Romans would put curtains over their walls, and he didn't want to be like the Romans. And that's why he said in the version of Muslim, Allah did not command us to cover, to put clothes on stones and clay. Then there's the other hadith of Aisha from Muslim about the curtain being having a picture of a bird on it. And he said, remove it because it reminds me of this world. So we got different, and y'all can just screenshot this. I'm not going to go through all this. Like I said, I personally believe that these are two separate hadiths, personally. But the bottom line, in both of these, all of these hadiths, and none of them is he saying that it's haram. In none of these hadiths do he mention anything about it being haram to do this. In both hadiths, he's simply expressing his displeasure, his dislike for having that type of stuff in his house to distract him. And y'all can screenshot all this too. I put all this in here for the brothers who wanted me to show the two different sides. There's El-Qurtabi. I got this part here from Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr. Y'all see that hadith there? Take a screenshot. And everybody knows the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he chose a life of simplicity. He didn't want to have curtains and drapes with figures and pictures in his house like the Romans did. He just chose that. He got angry when Umar, radiallahu anhu, Umar wanted to get him a bed. He said, "Oh, Prophet of Allah, you're sleeping on the floor on pine leaves. The king of Persia is a pagan and he sleeps in a bed." He said, "Let me go get you a bed." The prophet said, "No, I don't want a bed. I want to sleep on these palm leaves." So everybody knows that that's the type of life that he preferred, but he did not make it haram for anyone else. None of these hadiths, and all the scholars of hadith are in agreement of this. None of these hadith say it's haram. They're all showing his personal dislike. Just like when he was eating with Khalid bin Walid and they were served a lizard. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam ate everything else on his plate except that lizard. And Khalid bin Walid asked him, "Oh, Prophet of Allah, you didn't eat your lizard." He says, "Is it because it's haram?" Because Khalid bin Walid was eating his. And the Prophet said, "No, it's just that I don't care for it." I don't have an appetite. This is not from us. We don't eat lizards where we come from. And I just don't want to, if you want it, but I don't want to touch it. So this, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a man, a human being like you and me. He had personal likes and personal dislikes, okay, like we all do. But he didn't make it haram. He told those companions in those 4 other hadiths, he clearly told them, he told Abu Talha, Zayd, and all the rest of them, you know, as long as the pictures of animals or whatnot are on cloth or paper, anything that's one-dimensional, you're good to go. But he let his wife know in his house, I don't want that in my house, Aisha. And she was doing everything in her power as a young 12, 13, 14-year-old girl to please her husband, like all of us would do. You know? Okay. Finally, I want y'all to pay attention to this. The book that the class I teach on Thursdays, the Islamic Creed. Remember, that's based on the book of El-Tahawi. That's the man who wrote the book, the Islamic Creed. Listen to what El-Tahawi, who was one of the great scholars, he said in the beginning of his mission, the Prophet forbade all types of pictures, even if they were 2-dimensional, since the Muslims had just recently converted away from worshiping idols. So everything of this type was forbidden. Later, as the people grew in their faith, grew in their belief, he lifted the prohibition from cloth because of the necessity of wearing clothes. He also allowed pictures that were not treated in a respectful manner, okay, which are the pillows, the bedspreads, and stuff like that. So the prohibition of pictures which are not debased was never lifted. And that's what I agree with. And that's what the majority of the companions agree with too. Okay. So as far as you wearing a shirt that has a picture of an animal or a person on it, sleeping in a bed that has pictures of cats and tigers and lions, laying on a couch, sitting on a couch that has pictures of a safari scene, this is permissible because you're defacing them. You're not worshiping them. They're 1-dimensional, 2-dimensional. But a statue, something different. Hanging up your pictures of you on the walls, something different. Your cereal box, it's okay, 1-dimensional. Brad Pitt, still winking his eye at me, y'all. I can't get him to stop winking. 1-dimensional, no problem. Turn him over. Get out of here, dude. All right. So I'm going to stop right here. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. And I hope I answered y'all's question on that. I hope y'all understand those hadiths. If you don't, go ahead and I'll try to break it down even more. Assalamualaikum. Wa alaikum salam. Okay. Any other questions, comments? Oh, let me look on here. Hold on. I'm looking. Okay. Okay. Yes, yes. Okay, you got everything. The brother here said, thank you so much, Sister Layla. I got everything. Yeah, good job. Okay. Now, tomorrow for this class, guys, I'm going to continue. I'm going to speak a little bit more about pictures in the house. I'm going to cover some more stuff tomorrow. That class is at 9 o'clock. And also don't forget, tomorrow we have the Sunnahfollowers Kids program. The Sunnahfollowers Kids program starts at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then I'll come on at 2. And please make sure that I'm here, guys, that I'll come on at 2. So I'm going to close out here for tonight. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik.